Hi guys, good evening on and all. So myself Murli. So I would like to talk about what are the basics of web development in order to explain you HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery, and AngularJS. I would like to understand everybody should have a basic knowledge on what is web development is all about. In the process of learning this entire Angular, a person should have a knowledge on HTML. HTML will help us to create a web pages, and person should also have a knowledge on CSS, which is cascading style guide. And once we are familiar with HTML and CSS, we are going to teach JavaScript in this session. Now, before stepping into HTML, I just wanted to explain what is web development is all about and what are the prerequisites in order to learn AngularJS or Angular. There are two different versions are there basically, AngularJS and Angular. AngularJS is outdated version, Angular is the latest version. Okay, so before stepping into these advanced concepts, I just wanted to explain what is web development, what are the basic concepts which involves in web application development, and what sort of roles and responsibilities of a web developer or maybe Angular developer or front-end developer. So let me start sharing my session. I'm just sharing my session. Today's agenda is all about explaining about what is web development. Let me start from what is web. Because many of the participants are already aware of what is web is all about. And web and mobile, these are the two different areas wherein we will be able to access the items. And web, what do you mean by web? So generally a person can even sit across the globe and he will be able to access the data. And if you take an example of Amazon or Facebook, Flipkart, these are the web applications. And these web applications also have mobile applications as well. So even Facebook also has a web and mobile applications, both of them. But who is going to build these web pages? And what are the concepts that we're supposed to learn in order to build these web pages? That is what today's agenda is all about. So web development and mobile development or front-end development, these are the different kind of synonyms which people used to use in application development in IT. What sort of applications that we can build? Second question, everybody should understand what sort of applications that we'll be able to build. Next. So what are the technologies? What are the technologies that we're supposed to use? This is what, let me first focusing on web, guys. And we should also basic idea about what is www, World Wide Web, www.facebook.com, or let me take an example, xlr.com. And here if you see, xlr.com is a domain, and this XLR also has a website wherein people are able to watch what sort of services that XLR provide. If XLR does not contain a web application, so people can't even access the data by sitting across globe. So now the web application, the major intention is we are going to build whatever the services that we provide, and we'll try to host it in a server, and each server is going to link up with a proper domain name. If the users are hitting a domain, the domain is going to communicate to a server and it will try to load appropriate file. From there, the navigation is going to start. So now web development, being a front-end developer or a web developer, we have to build a presentation part of an application first. Parallelly, we should also build application layer. We should also build a database layer. So I would like to explain about all this application layer and database layer in the subsequent sessions. And today I just wanted to explain you the basics of web and how are we going to build a web pages. So web, anybody can access by sitting across the globe. Everybody should have proper internet connection. If you have a browser, that is sufficient enough for people to access the web. So since I connected from Bangalore, and different people also connected from different geographical location, and people are able to access. Now we also used some streaming channels. We use Zoom and we also use YouTube in order to publish this content or this session. So even those applications are also web applications. Now, how are we going to build applications? What is the initial step that everyone should learn? That is where web pages comes into a picture. And guys, listen carefully here, the types of applications, types of web applications that we will be able to build, that also we should understand. If you ask me, there are two types of applications that we'll be able to build. And first, let me talk about applications. There are two types. One is static application, another one is dynamic application. So static and dynamic. Okay, so for example, if the content within application or a page, if it is not changing over a number of period of a time, or if there is no interaction between a client and server, so those content is called as static content. And if the content is loading on request basis based upon user interaction, if the application is just give me 1 minute. So if the application is keep interacting with presentation layer, application layer, and database. So if 3-tier architecture involves in application development, we can call it as dynamic application. But guys, when we are working on real-time applications in a companies, each company is going to build a static and combination of dynamic both all together. So even if you wanted to build a static application or dynamic applications, we should know how to build a web pages, either static page or dynamic page. So when you are talking about a web page, that is where we must have to learn HTML. HTML is a markup language which will help everybody to design a pages. Whereas coming to CSS is for style guide. And before stepping into those, and even let me explain about what is static application, what is dynamic application. I'll try to take an example of who are static. Even if you take an example of any Facebook or Amazon, the privacy policy pages, terms and conditions, refund policy, these guys, the content of these pages are not going to change every day. Once they define the policies, and the policies at least exist for a couple of days, and there will be slight changes are there in the policy, but frequently they are not going to change the policy. If those kind of pages that we'll be able to build it as static nature, and when it comes to a product category, a product listing, a product details, all these pages we'll be able to build it as dynamic. This is just only a theoretical part. And once we start executing and when you are getting into the practicals, you will get to know how are we going to build a web pages. If, see, for example, as a HTML developer, initially we are going to build a static pages. Slowly, we are going to convert static pages into dynamic nature. Okay, before, as I already said here, what sort of applications that we will be able to build. So this is what, for this question, either we'll be able to build static applications or dynamic applications. And what are the technologies? Before diving into the technologies, everybody should understand what is the basic architecture that every company is going to follow to build applications. Now, I wanted to draw a basic architecture. If you look after this particular diagram, those who are coming from computer science background, it'll be easier for them to grab the knowledge. Those who are non-technical side, also it is fine. We are explaining from the batch basics. Guys, listen carefully. For every application, no matter whether it is a static application or dynamic application, so we have to maintain a data. This is just a general diagram that I am creating. You guys have to understand this. And everywhere, presentation layer will be there, where data we are presenting for business users or end users. This is a presentation layer. So generally, for every dynamic application, the data resides at database layer. This is where DB. We are storing all the files with respect to our application into a database layer, either in the format of tables or schema format or key value pair, whatever format of data that database that we are using, we are storing a data. Next, see, generally in OSI model, software engineering, open system and interconnections. In that there are 7 layers of them. In OSI model, 7 layers. So this is fundamentals of software engineering. Everybody must aware, even if you want to become an Angular developer. So that's why let me talk about the basics of OSI as well. Open system interconnection. In this, 7 layers are there. So out of which the first layer is application layer. Wherein we are going to write so what we are going to do, application layer. Here we are going to write a business logic. Just give me 1 minute. Then presentation layer. And third layer, session layer. Fourth layer, transport layer. Fifth layer, network layer. Sixth layer, data link layer. The 7th layer we are going to use physical layer. These are the different layers which are available in OSI model. And guys, kindly understand, being a front-end developer, or if you are learning Angular or similar kind of libraries or a framework, make sure that you should also understand what is your roles and responsibilities while working on a companies. So if you look after these particular layers, and different people are going to work on different layers. However, if you want to construct a house, we need a couple of engineers altogether. They have to put their efforts. For example, builders are going to build a house. and carpenters are going to do carpenter work, electricians are doing electrical work, and even plumbing people are doing plumbing work. A different set of engineers are going to come together and they are putting their efforts to build a house. Similarly, when you are working on real-time applications, every company need a different sort of developers. Now you are learning, you are planning to learn presentation part. Angular is a framework which will help a company to build a presentation part of an application. And let me relate that to this OSI model. Even guys, listen here, and you see a presentation layer is a second layer. And even in this three-tier architecture, you guys are able to see this is presentation layer where we are presenting a data back to a business users. This is presentation layer. Whereas coming to this layer, we can call it as application layer, where we are going to write a business logic. So this layer is called database layer. Now, these individual systems, if they are not communicating between each other, then it is useless. When we are building dynamic application, make sure that there should be an intercommunication between these two layers. Okay, now say let me communicate these two guys, and the request should go from client side to a server, and server should collect the request from client, and it has to send that request back to your database. Again, database has to process the data and it has to give data back to application layer, and it has to send the data finally back to a presentation layer. Guys, listen carefully here. End of the day, this is the layer that Angular comes into a picture. In this presentation layer only we are going to work. So there are some set of people, those who are aware of Java, .NET, all the people are going to work on this particular layer. So Java team, they are working, or Python, or .NET, different sort of middleware team is going to work on this, and database, even MySQL, MongoDB, NoSQL, Oracle, a different kind of databases. And being a front-end developer, you don't need to understand how this system works. You also don't need to understand how this system works. And the communication between these two systems, you need not to understand at all. And our major focus is on presentation layer and how the data is communicating between presentation layer and application layer. The logics people are writing in application layer, that is a headache of middleware team. Now presentation team. So guys, this is very, very important. How effectively that you are presenting a data back to your end users. If the business users are happy with your presentation, they will start giving a business for us. Application without a proper presentation, it is very tough to succeed in that application in the market. So my sincere advice is, from basic level to advanced level, you people have to understand how are we going to build a beautiful presentation. And being a presentation layer developer, also called as UI developer, also called as front end or Angular, our main focus is we have to collect the data from middleware, and we should know how to present the data very well in presentation layer. And we should also have a complete knowledge on how are we going to send a communication between presentation layer and application layer. This is a quite common architecture which every software companies started following. Either it may be a mobile application or it may be a web application. This is quite common architecture. If you guys have any queries, feel free to ask us. And there is a question and answer session as well at last. And you can also keep asking them if you have any questions. Next, what sort of technologies that we're supposed to use to build this presentation layer? That is where, guys, this even to build a beautiful presentation layer, there are 3 levels of program that you guys have to take. The first, we must have to design a page. The step number 1, we must design a page. see, application is a group of web, pages. Either it can consist of one page or it can contain multiple pages. How are you going to design a page? So do not try to get confused about what is web designing and what is web development, or UI design or UI development. So design is something which designers are going to create a blueprint of an application page, and they are not going to use any coding logic in order to present the data. Designers are going to use Illustrator or Photoshop or similar kind of tools, and they are going to use their creative mindset and they will try to create a page how it is going to look like. Next, the front-end developers, I mean to say Angular or React or Vue.js, these are the people how to pick that design and we have to convert that into a functional elements, and which is also called as templating. Now to do that, as I already said, HTML is the first initial markup language which will help us to design a web page. Whatever the pages that are created by designers, we are going to convert them into actual template. Once HTML, for example, once the page is built, and we must have to beautify that page. Being a front-end developer or an Angular developer, there are two main concepts that every developer should remember. Point one, the data what we are presenting for end user, that must be end user friendly design. Beautiful designs we have to create. And the code, whatever we are writing to build our presentation part of an application, the code must be search engine friendly and browser friendly code. These two important points, every UI developer must remember it. If you are writing a wrong code, or if you are not writing a search engine friendly code, what happens? Search engines are going to give warnings. If too many warnings are there in the page, and even Google search engine, Microsoft, even MSN or Bing, these are the search engines, they are going to give bad ranking for your web page. If the page has too many warnings, then ultimately the page ranking is going to keep increase, the visibility is going to decrease. That's why Angular developers plays very important role in the market when we are building dynamic or static applications. Now, in this today's session, I would like to talk about the basics of HTML. And let me talk about HTML. Okay, I'm clearing up all this. What are the technologies? I think we have already shared what different kind of technologies are sufficient enough to build a presentation part of an application using Angular as a framework. How are we going to start? Where are we going to start? So that is what today's session I am going to explain. First, we have to learn what are the basic tags which are there in HTML. How are we going to use HTML to design a web page? These are the basic concepts that everybody should understand. Okay, let me clear all the drawings. Let me start explaining about what is HTML. So generally, HTML is for designing web pages, hypertext markup language, which helps us to design a web page which was created by a designer. Designing a page. This is what, high level definition. How? Next, immediately you should ask a question, how are we going to build? So using tags. For this, using tags. So what is tag is all about? So a tag is a building block of an application. Building blocks of an application. However, when we are constructing a house, we are using bricks. So we can call bricks as a building block of an house, the same similarly in HTML, tags also, we can call it as building block of an application. And how many types of tags are there? In HTML, we do have types of tags. So there are two types of tags, single and paired tags. I'm going to explain about what is the use of each one of them. Single tag. Guys, now HTML, the whole part of HTML, it is going to rely on three concepts. One is tags. Tags are also divided into two types, tags and elements. Then at last, we are going to talk about attributes. Now let me explain what is HTML, what are the different main concepts of HTML. Even these tags again divided into two types. Single tag and paired tags. It is dead easy to understand. HTML, any non-technical guy can also understand what is HTML is all about. So let us focus more on this part today. So how tags are going to be used to build a web page. What is single tag? So next, the syntax of a tag. If you ask me syntax, how are you going to write the tags? Guys, it's all about lesser than followed by tag name and greater than. So this is known as a start tag. In case lesser than followed by forward bracket tag name. This is known as end tag. This is fundamentals, anybody can easily understand end tag. So HTML is predefined. So which means HTML has some set of tags. Being a developer, we should know what are the tags which we're supposed to use to build a web page. And here in HTML, we don't have any flexibility to create our own tags because HTML is predefined. Similarly, other languages, XML is there. There we will be able to create our own tags. But HTML is not allowing us to create our own tags. Whatever the list of tags which are there in this language, we must have to use them. There is no other way for us to create our own. Now the tags, the list of tags are categorized as per their nature. I'll try to explain them. What are the important tags which will be used to create a web page in the next session, in the upcoming sessions. Okay. Now, even these tags, as I already said, divided into two types, single and pair. The single, if there is no closing tag, which is called single, if there is a closing tag, start tag as well as closing tag, which is called paired. Two tags, start and end, if it contains, which we can call it as pair, and if the tag has single, so it has. Let me give an example for single tag. Guys, break tag. There is no closing for break. And if you're talking about input, image tag or input tags, all this comes under single. Image, img. There is no closing of these tags. So this kind of, few tags comes under start tag and many tags comes under paired tag. Again, I'm repeating, a tag without a closing is called as single. A tag which consists of closing, which is called as pair. If you consider out of 100%, 80% or 80 to 85% of the tags comes under pair. Only 10 to 15% of the tags comes under single. Even the definition of a tag, which I already explained, which is building block of an application. However, when you are constructing a wall, we have to keep adding each brick. So the brick is allowing a builder to build a house. Similarly, even HTML tags allowing developer to construct a web page. And basically, in the beginning of this session, we have to understand what all the different tags are there and how are we going to construct a web page or a mobile page using HTML. We'll understand slowly. That's all about tag. Again, next, elements are there. One more important concept in HTML, element. This is very, very important. To whom we will call it as elements. Next, there is one more important concept, attributes. These guys are very fundamental. Elements, for example, from a start tag till end tag, the entire portion we will call it as an element. Even these elements are also categorized into two types. One is inline element, another one is block level element. Guys, who is inline and who is block level? I'll try to explain. First is inline element. Another one is block level element. The name suggests inline. When you are building a web page, if the element started, rendering within a line, which is called as inline. If the element completely blocks the whole row, which is called as a block level. If it blocks the whole row, which is called as block level. And you can also have a questions, how can we remember whether the element is inline or the element is block level, whether the tag is single or whether the tag is paired? How are you going to remember? These kind of questions you can even keep asking. But it is very simple to understand. HTML, a combination based upon their usage, a category, even the tags are also categorized into two different types. One is semantic and non-semantic. As per their nature of, purpose of your work, few tags, the moment when you read, if you are able to understand what is the tag is all about, which is called semantic. A meaningful tags are called as semantic tags, meaningless tags are non-semantic. In HTML, combination of semantic and non-semantic tags are there. And even though those elements, first, let me explain about to whom we will call it as a inline element. Guys, listen. If you are considering, if it is a page, if you take an example of, just a second. If you consider this is a page, every web page will have header and footer. See, if you are placing an element here, just give me 1 minute and what I'm trying to draw. So if you are placing an element, if you place an element, if the element blocks the entire row, if this element, whatever the element that we have placed in a row, if this is blocking entire row, which is called a block level element, if it blocks entire row, even though to place this element inside a web page, we don't need entire space, but the nature of an element is block level. That's why this element is blocking complete row. So these elements are called as a block level element. Generally, the reservations, when you people are reserving a ticket in train or bus, so even if you're not going, the conductor is going to block the complete, seats. Whereas coming to the inline, guys, listen. In case, if you are placing an element inside a web page, if this element is not blocking a extra space, if it is allowing next element to sit next to this, you can see every element is allowing next element to display the left hand side or right hand side. So this particular element, the element who is allowing next element to display next to each other, these kind of elements are called as inline element if the element is blocking an entire row, which is called a block level element. So according to this nature, 80% I can say all the elements are comes under block level, 20% of the elements are comes under inline. So we are going to understand how are we going to use this inline and block level to construct a web page. Now, first, you guys have to understand what is element is all about. Now, as I already said, end tag examples. So a tag lesser than h1. This is a closing end tag. Now, this is examples for paired tag. If you ask me to give an examples for a paired tag, just listen carefully. H1, which is also and some text and closing of H1. A tag with a proper closing is called as pair. So you see here, this tag has start tag as well as end tag. That's why I can say H1 is a pair tag. Single, the break is an example for single tag. And even input tags are comes under single. There is no closing of this input. There is no closing of image. Next, if you are writing a web page or if you're writing a code using HTML any version, if the tag has start tag followed by some text and end tag, the entire portion is called as element. So let me start writing one simple example. Hello world program. Let me start with hello world program. And for that, guys, to write a program, however, if you wanted to write C program or C++ or whatever the program that you wish to write, we need a proper editors. Okay. And here I'm using Sublime Text. Different people are going to use different editors. For HTML, CSS, Sublime Text I'm using. And in case if you are familiar with Visual Studio Code, or if you're familiar with a different similar editors, you please try to go ahead and use them. Guys, now I'm just using Sublime Text in order to write a code. And Notepad++ also you can use it. Okay, so now if you are planning to write any of the code, make sure that you should also understand the basics of sharing is paused. Just give me 1 minute. I'm going to share the complete screen. Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you. So what I'm trying to say here, I just gone through a different kind of comments. You guys have to understand what is the fundamentals of an IDE and what is the fundamentals of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and all. And HTML is not a replacement of CSS, or CSS is not replacement of HTML. So everybody has their significant importance, and we should understand what is the use of each one of them. Okay, now, so what I'm trying to explain here, let me start preparing a simple sample code. Generally, everybody are going to start with hello world. I'm also going to start with hello world. And let me explain about how are we going to create a basic structure of HTML web page. So for that, let me start preparing a sample code, and I'm saving this file in the desktop. CellR. Within this folder, let me create one more subfolder, HTML. All the exercises with respect to HTML, I would like to store it inside HTML folder. And also file name. Guys, listen carefully. When you are giving a file name, hello.
Hello.
Yes, Vinith.
Hello. Sir, please repeat yourself.
No, that's why I don't know who has passed my screen. I don't know, boss. I haven't made any changes.
So
Okay, so when we are saving a file, make sure that we should also give a relevant names to a file, and we should not give any special characters when you are saving a file. I mean to say, if you guys are saving the file, maybe a basics of HTML or hello world.html, something like that, if you are planning to save, make sure that here I'm going to explain about the basics of HTML. So since my intention is to explain basics of HTML, I should also save this file as basics of HTML. That's why I'm saving this file, basics underscore of underscore HTML. And the extension of this file could be either HTML or HTML. This is just shortcut of now I'm just saving this file. Next, every web page, this is a structure. You can even see that line number 1 says what version of HTML that we are using. Line number 2 says, and each and every HTML page is going to divide into two different parts. One is head, another one is body. Now guys, listen carefully. Here, the title also we have to save. We have to give a relevant title for our task. Since I'm talking about basics of HTML, I'm giving a relevant title for my page. What if you're not giving a title? It sounds like a person without a name. However, it is difficult for a human to keep interact with a person without a name. Similarly, a page, when you are building a website, make sure that you have to save the file. We should not even save the file without a proper title. If you're saving a file, definitely we are going to face issues when you are building real-time applications. That's why guys, again, let me start explaining about the basic structure of our HTML. If you ask me, every HTML page consists of two. Let me see here. Each HTML is going to divide it into two major parts. One is head, another one is body section. So head is the one where we are going to store the information with respect to our web page, what we are building for. Next, body is the one design related items we are going to store into a body. Now, each and every document of HTML is going to divide it into two parts. One is HTML is a main parent element, and this is consist of two parts, body. Before talking about a body, let me put head and body. Guys, now under the head, the page information. Head is always a page information we are storing. And inside a body, a page design information, design data. Page design information we are going to put it inside a body. Now, moving forward, even in this example, my body consists of 0 elements. Now, as I already said, element is nothing but, excuse me, from a start tag, this particular tag is any, I mean to say, lesser than followed by a tag name and greater than, which is called a start tag, and lesser than forward slash and tag name, which is called a end tag. And from a start tag till end tag, the whole portion we will call it as a element. These elements again divided into two types. One is inline. Another one is block level. Next, guys. Okay, now every HTML page, we must have to divide them into two different parts. One is head, another one is body, as I already said. So what we are going to store in a head, we are storing all the page information. And you guys should also ask what sort of information that we're supposed to store. However, each and every human being, if we wanted to call them, we should know, we should aware of what is the name of that particular person. If you are not aware of the name of a person, what happens, it will be tough for that particular person to talk or to interact or to communicate. The same way, when you are building a web page, if a group of web pages are there in the sense, however, we will feel difficulty to understand that web page. The same way, if the title, if it is not there in a web page, search engines can't even understand what is that page is all about. Next, body, the page design. So all the design related elements that we're supposed to store it inside the body. Okay, next, what I'm trying to explain here, let me place some sort of elements inside a body. H1. So this is heading text. Welcome to HTML. Just give me 1 minute. So here, welcome to HTML. I'm just writing. H1, I'm just closing. Guys, you please try to understand the whole portion from starting tag till the ending tag. This whole portion, we are going to call it as an element. As discussed, the definition of an element, start tag followed by some text and end tag. This is called an element. Okay, next, what I'm trying to explain here. So let me save this file, and you should also understand how to execute this. However, if you guys are computer science background, and if you are executing C, if you want to execute C or C++, Turbo C, Turbo CPP is the editors that you would have used in order to write a code. There you have to press Control F9, Alt F9 in order to compile and run. Similarly, even HTML code, you may need a software in order to understand HTML to convert them into an output. So generally, browsers are able to understand this particular code. Right click and open in a browser. If you're using Sublime Text, if you right click and open in a browser, guys, listen carefully. You will be able to see that title, whatever you have given over here, and inside a body, since you have written only one H1 tag, and you can even see that output within a body. What if you're not giving a title? I already given an example. Title is mandatory now. Earlier, even without a title, people are building web pages, but a person without a name, however, it is difficult for a people to handle or people to call them. Similarly, a person without a page without a title, that sounds like, invalid page in digital marketing or SEO point of view, search engine optimization. So that's why being a front-end developer, make sure that all the page information, we have to put it inside a head, and the page design, you have to put it inside a body. Whatever you please write. Okay, if you write something inside a body, all the output, you will be able to see it inside a page body. Guys, and one more important thing that everybody should understand, right click and inspect an element, and it will open a developer tool. You see here, whatever the tool which opens here, which is called as developer tool. And developers should also understand what is the use of each one of the link over here. And in the subsequent lessons, you people are going to understand what is elements tab, what is console tab, what is source, everything. I'll be explaining in the subsequent lessons. Now today, you see here, the moment when I click on elements, if you expand each one of the tag, whatever the code that we have written within our HTML page, you will be able to see all the code here. Guys, this is very important for everyone to understand. This is called as document object model, which is generally created by a browser during the runtime. So the moment when you are executing HTML code, the browsers are collecting all the code from your hard disk, wherever you have stored, and on the fly during the runtime, the browsers are going to create a copy. Now, I'm talking about the fundamentals of computer memory. There are two sort of memories there. One is, one is primary memory, another one is secondary memory. However, if you have a primary memory more, the moment when you are executing an application in your computer, okay, ultimately what happens, we are going to, for example, if you are running one application in your computer, and if you have a lot of memory as a primary, RAM, so generally the application is going to consume a space which is inside a RAM and it will execute as quickly as possible. In case if RAM is filled with all the applications, and if you're keep executing, if you're overloading some extra applications to be executed in your computer, if the RAM is filled, it will try to load from ROM. In such cases, what happens, it is going to create problems. That's why, my dear friends, you should understand the basics of computer as well to understand this course. Now, ROM, RAM, read-only memory, random access memory, volatile memory, non-volatile memory, these guys are the fundamentals of computer science, and which is nowhere related to a front-end or Angular, but still you guys have to understand the basics of computers so that it will be easier for you to follow up this. Fine. Now, let me come back to a point. So why browser is picking up the code from your hard drive? Why browser is executing them in their browser context? For that particular question, I'm just giving an answer. However, if the application is loading from RAM, operating system can execute faster than loading an application from ROM. Similarly, if the data exists in hard disk, since I have saved my file, basics of HTML inside my desktop. You see here inside my desktop, I started storing in subfolder Angular, XLR, HTML, basics of HTML. Every time when I'm executing, the browser, instead of checking the code from this hard drive, which is an absolute path, the browser will try to pick up the code at first time and it will try to create a copy within browser context, which is called as RAM. So the advantages of implementing this kind of DOM structure to serve the data as quickly as possible to the end users. Guys, you must have to understand, if an application takes a lot of time, end users are going to lose the interest. Being a front-end developer, make sure that you should always promise to deliver an application as quickly as possible. We should not even take a longer time to load a data. If it is taking longer time to load a data, what happens? It will be always losing interest of a user. If the users are unhappy when they are accessing your web page, ultimately we are going to lose a lot of business. That's why, being a front-end developer, we should also aware of what sort of techniques that we're supposed to use in order to improve the performance. This all you guys have to understand. So moving forward, you will be able to understand the bit tips and tricks and advantages of implementing some sort of optimized techniques, and all the stuff you are going to understand. Since it is a first class, do not try to learn everything within a day. Even Rome is also not built within a day. And moreover, we don't want to overload and learn, but do not overlearn, which is also very important principle. If you guys wanted to learn the concept step by step, we'll try to learn. Next, guys, and you see here, whatever the code which I have written here, welcome to HTML. This is H1 code. Next, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. Like there are 6 varieties of tags are there with respect to heading. Now, the difference between each one of them, if you go and reload, you will get to know. So this developer tool is only for developers. Guys, if you can see here, the difference between each one of them, People used to say that the size is different from each other. Yes, of course, you people are right. Why? Because as a visible representation, we'll be able to understand there is a difference between a size. But when it comes to search engine prospect, even H1 has higher priority than H6. The text, guys, listen carefully. Nowadays, if you are presenting a data in a throughout your, maybe when you are building a web page, if your web page consists of complete text representation or text data, then end users are going to lose the interest. All you guys have to do is, what is this particular tag? What is the use of each one of the tag? Learning a tag and using them in real time, and how are we going to build a web page by using all this list of tags? That is very important. That's what a lack of information for a college people. So the main intention of this program is we wanted to give more information in terms of real time. We don't want to give a theoretical information. Better, whoever wanted to join this training, you people try to have a basic information and try to join. And I could see there are a lot of comments are keep passing on. There are few people who are not even aware of basics, and people are facing difficulties to understand. That's fine. And we are happy to give you a real-time knowledge here. And if you have any of the questions and answer, our team is dedicatedly available for you to answer all your queries. It may be a small or bigger or complex. We are happy to provide. Next here, list of tags. Listen carefully. When we are building a web page might consist of a group of text. We have to represent text. We should also represent images. We should also represent audio. We should also represent video. A different sort of tags that we have to keep giving it. Why? Because guys, if the tags are not, I mean to say, HTML also has a varieties of versions. H1, I mean to say HTML 1.0, HTML 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, DHTML, XHTML, and current version is HTML 5.0. And do not get confused about all these versions. Each version is a different tags are there. And end of the day, HTML comes back with three main features. As I already showed, HTML consists of tags, elements, and attributes. Slowly, I will keep explaining about all of them. Now, to represent a text in the format of heading, HTML comes back with 6 varieties of tags, H1 to H6. Okay, H1 to H6, as I already said, H1 is highest priority, H6 is being lowest priority, guys. Next, what do you guys have to think? Maybe why HTML has released the 6 varieties of tags, and if you guys are good at Word, it will be easier for you to understand. Even though if you open any of the book will also have units. Each unit will also have a chapters. Each chapter also has subtopics, topics, and subtopics. Each subtopics will also have a side headings. Even the main unit name, they are highlighting with the bold letters, and even the chapter names are little bit smaller letters. Even the topic name is even more smaller letters, and subtopic name is even more smaller letter. The same way, however, when people are publishing a content in a book, similarly we have to publish the content in a web page. There is no much difference between a book presentation and web page presentation, but the difference is book. You guys have to go to your library and you have to read it, and you should also carry the book each and every time. But when it comes to your web, when you are placing all the text into your web, wherever you go, you will be able to access the web. That is the advantages of www, World Wide Web. Guys, if you guys are not aware of fundamentals of internet technologies, keep learning the latest technologies and also understand what is happening around the world. and you are engineers, and you people want to become tomorrow's engineers, so that what I'm trying to say, you should also have a passion to learn the new technologies. We should appreciate the people who have joined this course, and you guys should also be thankful to XLR for providing such a great session for you people. We are planning to give a real-time sessions and real-time concept for all of you to understand what sort of, so far H1 tags anybody can easily understand. That is not HTML all about. And people used to say the one who came from computer science background, by looking HTML headline, people will think that I know HTML. But knowing HTML is not this one. My dear friends, if you people are aware of HTML and CSS, make sure that if you are able to build maybe Facebook homepage, Facebook, I mean to say dashboard, or Amazon homepage, or Flipkart homepage, if you are able to build without seeking a support, then I'll be able to accept that you know HTML and CSS. And academics, we have only basics. But real-time companies are expecting lots of real-time knowledge. That's why HTML 4, 5, 6, there are advantages, there are also have disadvantages. But when you are building a web page, we don't want to pick up any of the tag which is unused. These are the techniques that you're supposed to understand. Now, why heading tags? To represent a data in the format of heading, we may need some sort of headings H1 to H6. Next, once the heading is defined, we should also understand what is that heading is all about. We should give the information about a heading that is known as a paragraph. It is a summary of. Next, instead of giving a dummy data, guys, I am searching in Google HTML. So let me copy this. Say developers, no matter whether you're a front-end developer or back-end developer. So in development, 20% we have to use our brain. In IT, I'll tell you, not only IT. So in the society, if you want to lead your life, 20% only you have to use your brain. Remaining 80% you can copy paste the code. Society teaches a lot of lessons, but you should know how to use each one of them. Even Google has improved a lot. Even if you are planning to learn anything, most of the information that you will be able to get it from Google, but you should understand how to use that information to construct your web page. Guys, everywhere you can't even put heading and text, heading and paragraph. That is not allowing you to finish your web page design. Heading plays important role if you wanted to describe your data in the format of heading. Similarly, paragraph allows us to summarize what is that heading is all about. That's where these two tags are also comes under text tags. And we can also use, let me categorize these tags into multiple types, my dear friends. And let me talk about list of tags. List of important tags, I'll try to list out over here. And here, list of tags. Those who are completely new to HTML, understand this lesser than explanatory mark hyphen. This is a starting point of a comment. This is ending point of a comment. In between, we are writing a comment. Comments are for a hint text, for developers to understand what is this lines of code. Guys, even as I said, HTML is all about a group of tags. Now let me see the list of tags. Here, text tags. Let me talk about textual representation. For that, under text tags, heading, all heading H1 to H6 comes under text tags, and paragraph also comes under text tag. Next, heading tag, paragraph tag, even list tags, all list tags comes under text tags. Even table also comes under text tag. Next, These are the important text tags. In HTML5 also has article tag. HTML5 also has a site tag. So I'll be explaining about what is the drawbacks of older version of HTML, what is the advantage of going for HTML5. So learning basics is not going to useful, but you should understand where to use and what is the right tag for right place. That is very important, guys. And to understand the definition of each tag, W3 schools or Wikipedia, Encyclopedia is also okay. But who is going to teach what is the use of each one of the tag and where are we going to put the best tag at best place? If you are using a wrong tag at right place and right tag at wrong place, your page is going to have a lot of warnings. And if too many warnings are there, search engines are going to give highest ranking for you, then lowest visibility. That's what, many people are making a mistakes to understand the basics. Got my point? Got my point. That's why, my dear friends, and try to follow this session completely. So first day, since we are talking very basics, moving forward, and we are going to talk many of interesting things. Okay, so, and I'm sure you people will be definitely happy enough about this particular training. Why? Because it is completely a job oriented training. Generally, the cost of this training, more or less, 30 plus thousand so we are charging, but we are giving free of cost for people. Why? Because you guys have to understand what is happening in the IT. Next, so heading tags H1 to H6. We should also understand when are we going to use H1. We should also understand when are we going to use H6, H1 and H6. If you are using, for example, when you are placing a text, if you are planning to give high importance to your text, better to wrap the text within H1. If you are planning to give low importance, better to go for a H6. Plus, as part of SEO as a concern, H1 is highest priority, H6 is low priority. Then if you want medium priority, better to wrap your text with H3. Understand? Next important thing is here paragraph, list tags. Even the list tags are also divided into 3 types: ordered list, unordered list, definition list. Next, table. If you are planning to display the data in the format of rows and columns, we have to use tables. But generally, many people are going to make a mistakes in HTML. Since HTML sounds like easy, the easy concepts, chances of making a mistakes more. As long as if you are making more mistakes and more warnings comes into your picture. See, here I'm talking about warnings. I'm not even talking about errors. Why? Guys, as I already discussed, H1 to H6, there is no H7 or H8 or H9, H10. Why? Because HTML has only predefined tags. You cannot even learn your own tags, or you can't even define your own tags. Since whatever the tags that are defined, you have to learn them. If you are good at word theory, then you will get to know what are the use of H1 to H6 tags. There is no H10 or H8 kind of subheadings or headings. H1 to H6 is sufficient enough. And paragraph tag is for summarizing your heading. List tag is displaying data either in the format of ordered list or unordered list. Table tag is for placing your data in the format of rows and columns. Article and aside, these tags are very important. If you would like to give more importance to your text, then instead of placing them in a paragraph, better to place the text inside article. And if you are planning to give a less important for your text, lesser than article importance, in such case, we can even place the text inside aside. Aside tag is a kind of, what I can say, which is a side content. Okay. Next, every tag has significance importance. Every version also has a different kind of limitations. HTML4 has limitations, DHTML has limitations, XHTML has limitations. That's where HTML5 comes into your picture. Guys, and one more important point. So HTML is for designing a page. CSS is for styling a page. JavaScript plays very important role, which will allow user to interact with the web page. Now, by using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, we'll be able to build a web page. But why do we learn advanced concepts? Of course, advanced concepts will have predefined features. Ready-made, however, if you are planning to go for a stitched dress, it will try to take a lot of time. You have to go to your market and you have to buy a good fabric. You must have to go to your tailor and you have to give measurements. And tailor also sometimes, if he is busy, he will try to take too much of time. But when it comes to your ready-made, if the shirt is ready-made, and you can go to the shopping mall and you can purchase the dress, immediately you can enjoy that dress. That's what this is all about, latest frameworks. It sounds like, normal mobile phone and smartphone. Normal mobile phone, if you people are comfortable with normal phone, why are you purchasing a smartphone? Ultimately, smartphones will have a lot of features compared to normal phone. If you people, human being is happy with a normal phone, then what is the point of innovating these smartphones? We should have a logical brain, my dear friends. Okay, so while building a web page, we should also use combination of all the versions. It's not just all about HTML5. HTML5 is a combination of all older versions, and it also has its own features. When you are working on real time, we are going to use all older versions along with the newer version features. That's why I can say HTML5 is a combination of all older versions and it has its own new features. Okay. Next paragraph, the syntaxes. I'm giving a task for all of you guys before you people join tomorrow, and better to go to a W3 schools or any other resources, understand what is the use of each one of the tag, table tag, article, and aside. These tags are comes under text tags. Next, I'm going to talk about graphics tags. If you are planning to place a graphic related graphics tags, guys, listen carefully. To place a graphics, we have to use image tag, image tag, and we should also use figure tag. Each figure tag will also comes back with figure caption. Figure and fig caption. Now you should understand what is the use of image, what is the use of figure, what is the use of fig caption, when are we going to use these tags. That is a concept that you must have to understand. I'll list out all the tags, then we'll work on small application wherein I'll be keep working and I'll be building an application from the scratch. Then you will be able to understand. Okay. Next, graphics tags is where. Next, guys. And multimedia content. If you wanted to place multimedia content, either you can go for audio tag or video tag. And each audio and video, these guys are child tag, that is source tag. The source tag is the one is going to be used to load a particular audio and video from a different path. This HTML5 has a capability to load multimedia content into a web page. So earlier, people are not even using this particular, HTML older versions are not supporting audio and video content, and people are depending on third-party modules or third-party plugins like Adobe Flash Player in order to load multimedia content. But what if the persons are not aware, how are we going to inject or maybe add a plugin back to our browser? That's why in the olden days, if people are not aware, how are you going to add a plugin back to your browser, and multimedia content will not even work. If it is not working, the efforts of preparing multimedia content into a web page is useless. To avoid these unwanted problems, HTML5 comes back with a lot of features. Understand? That's why, my dear friends, and you guys have to understand and what is the use of each one of the feature which is there in HTML5, and what are the drawbacks which are there in HTML older versions, how HTML5 comes back with a lot of features to overcome the drawbacks which are there in older versions. That is where there are plenty of openings are there for Angular developers in the market. Every application presentation layer is very, very important. Even if the application built with Python, also need a presentation layer. If the application builds with backend, any technology, we need a front end. That's why a beautiful front end plays very important role in IT. That's why always the front end developers are always in high demand. Let me keep explaining in case if you wanted to prepare a form related information, forms, if you are planning to collect the data from a website user, that is where forms comes into your picture. So now form has different set of elements like input element, input tags. This input also has a lot of tags like input text, different type text, password control, and input also has hidden control, input file control, input text password hidden file, checkbox control or radio button, checkbox, radio, checkbox, even input type submit, input type reset, and there are this submit and reset action items. And next, multi-line text box if you want to create, that is text area. This allows developer to create a multi-line text box, and drop down if you guys wanted to create, select with an options. This creates drop down. So this is how, and HTML5 also has a lot of other features like this all input versions, whatever I discussed so far, this comes under older version of HTML. And in HTML5, guys, in HTML5 tags, if you see under HTML5, we do have input type email, input type search, input type URL, input type date, input type month, input type time, input type number, input type tell, input type color picker, input type button. These are the new elements which are added. Why? Because see, without HTML5, everywhere, even if we wanted to collect email information from a user, we were creating a text box. And in the text box, HTML is going to accept any kind of information. User can even store, user can even give a combination of alphabets, alphanumerics, and special characters. But when you are planning to collect a proper email, the text box is not going to validate against the email. So again, we have to depend on third party, like I mean to say JavaScript, to validate a proper email. Now in HTML5, instead of doing that too much of validation rules, HTML5 comes back with the semantic form elements, wherein those particular elements won't even allow user to enter other than proper email. Similarly, if you wanted to collect a date related information from a user, then we have to use date, month related, time related, number, and color. See, this is just all about, the list of tags that I'm giving over here. Slowly you will get to know when I started building a web page. And I'll be keep preparing, one small project for you guys. Once you are familiar with the basics, then a project related training I'm planning to explain, so that you all is going to understand the real time knowledge. We are not going to think about only basics today, only basics, but slowly we are going to give more hands-on experience. Understand, guys? Next, okay, so what we'll try to do, I'll be keep stopping a session for today, and I'm going to continue from tomorrow. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. And so we can even start exploring more about HTML, other layout related tags, and how HTML is helping us to build a web page. Now, so far, I started explaining only basics of HTML. And HTML, there is one important concept, that is layout. Guys, layout is very, very important, which will help us to build a web page. So using division tag, we can create a layout. Also, we can also use section to create a layout. We can also use header to create a layout. We can also use footer to create a layout. We can use main tag. We can use navigation. Navigation is not for a layout. Main, header, footer, main. Yes, this is enough. Now HTML5 also has a lot of other semantic elements that we can discuss in detail. Okay. So since it is a crash course, my dear friends, we don't want to discuss unwanted tags here. And even if you people are learning W3 schools or basics, if you're learning, okay, and all the tags which are there in W3 schools, we don't want to discuss. Even since you are a student, even though each and every subject, there are 5,000 lines of code, or maybe 3,000 pages are there. Generally, are we going to use all of them? No, ultimately, we are not going to use it. And one more important thing that I would like to explain here. Now, H1 to H6, since if you execute this in a browser, now you see here, H1, still, even though if you inspect this element, HTML is completely blocking the entire element. Why? Since the nature of H1 is block level. Guys, even H2 nature is block level. H3, all heading tags are block level element. Also, if I reload, even the paragraph is also block level element. Okay. Now, what do you mean by block level element? What do you mean by inline element? And parallelly, I would like to give one more element here. Let me give one more element, a span. Welcome to CSS. I'll try to give. Now, if I'll execute this, I'm also giving a couple of spans. Let me duplicate these spans. And if you save and reload your page, my dear friends, look after this. You can even expand and you can check all the spans. You see here, each span is allowing another span, because the span is a nature of an inline element. Even the H1 to H6 and paragraph is a block level element. I hope you all understand what is inline, what is block level. Slowly, like this, we are going to explain more about what is HTML and what is the use of each one of the tag. And I'll be winding up HTML by tomorrow. Then, because HTML is dead easy, anybody can easily understand. So tomorrow, my plan is to complete HTML. Then day after tomorrow, I'll start with CSS. Those who are planning to learn, who wanted to get a good job with a good packages, better to stay with front end. And those who are, even you can also research on JavaScript. There are thousands of openings are there. JavaScript is the hottest technology from 2012 to till today. If you see, there are billions of applications is already built with JavaScript. There are billions of jobs are already there in JavaScript. So do not try to join this session only for time pass. And since it is a very good session conducted by XLR, and please try to utilize this session and understand the basics part of all Angular, because I could see there are many people not even aware what is the use of HTML, what is the basics of this, and they don't know whether Angular is on front end or back end. People are asking, and you guys have to understand where is your level of knowledge. If you people are not understanding, then the companies are expecting advanced concept, my dear friends. Okay, so let us, ask if you have any questions. Feel free to ask now. I'm going to let me check with my team. Okay, so there are many people are asking about what is the difference between image and figure. So guys, image, if you are planning to place any graphic related information inside a web page without a caption, and you can even use image, but figure is a semantic element which is introduced in HTML5. So if you are wrapping an image with a figure, and every figure caption will also be there, it will be easier for end user to understand if you are giving a proper caption to a figure. See, when you are placing a graphics inside a web page, if you are using a well-known figure, I mean to say a Sachin Tendulkar image, if you are placing in a web page, most of the people are aware of him. In case if I am placing my web page, what happens, boss? If my image, if I'm placing it, it will be tough for people to understand who am I. So if a website developer is giving a information, then it will be easier for person to understand. And also some people are asking a questions, sir, can we implement e-commerce applications using Angular? Yes, of course, we'll be able to use e-commerce applications using Angular, but Angular we are going to use only to build a presentation part of an application. E-commerce applications cannot be completed by using Angular alone. For e-commerce applications, we may need front end that can be built by Angular. We also need a backend. We can also use database. These three different, that is what three-tier architecture which I explained. Angular comes back with only one tier, and remaining two tiers, we have to use different technologies to build an e-commerce application. Sivakumar.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so next, which version of Angular is discussed? We are going to discuss the latest version. I mean to say, whatever the latest version which is there, like Angular 11 plus, that is what we are going to use. What is the use of Angular? And the people who are very much curiosity to learn about Angular, wait for some more time, because Angular is a framework which will help us to build a single page applications. And you should also understand what is single page architecture. You should also understand what is three-tier architecture. So to understand all this, wait for some time. Some people are saying figure is CEO friendly. It's not CEO, it's CEO. What is article and aside? This is generally article tag and aside tag, which is a part of HTML5 text representation tags. If you are planning to represent a text in the format of either high priority, I mean, if you are planning to give high priority to your text, then better to use article instead of going for paragraph. Now, as I already discussed, paragraph and even the list, table, and article and aside. When you are placing a text in a paragraph and article, search engines are going to take high priority to your text which is placed inside article instead of taking it from paragraph. These guys are SEO friendly. As I said, being a front-end developer, you should write search engine friendly code. You should project user friendly data. That is what it's very important for you guys to understand. Next, some of the people are asking, is there any prerequisites required? Guys, prerequisites are not required, but continuous efforts are important. If you join a sessions by missing one or two sessions, if you are keep joining in between, it is very tough to understand. Sincere advice for whoever wanted to become a front-end developer to get a good jobs in the market, and better to start following us from the day one. If you miss one class, it will be tough for you to understand another class. Why? Because everyone are interdependent each other. Can you please repeat difference between static and dynamic applications? As I said already, now whatever the page which I created today, so this all the data is static data. There is no dynamic interactions at all. This is static. Even if you open this web page, or if someone else opens this web page, so then the same data is going to display. There is no data change. Why? Because this basics of HTML file is not connected to a backend. That is why I can call it as a static web page. When it comes to a dynamic web page, and let me see if you guys are opening WhatsApp. Even if you're keep clicking on each one of the link, my dear friends, you can see that related data only we are able to show. Even if you go for other places and other information, this is dynamic, which is not a static at all. On need basis, if the data is serving from a front end and back end, that is called a dynamic application. So someone is asking, please tell in detail about layout tags with an example. So tomorrow we are going to talk about layout tags so that you will be able to understand. Next, what is the difference between React and Angular? Guys, this is something, if I try to explain now, it will be easier for you to find difficulty. We'll try to start addressing all these guys once you understand the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. What is semantic tag? A tag with a meaning that is called semantic. A span is a meaningless tag, whereas coming to P, paragraph is a semantic tag. Like that, HTML is a group of semantic and non-semantic tags. Yes, of course, see, for seeing output in the web page, completion of a code, we should reload the page every time. That is what one of our friend is asking. Yes, of course, you have to reload it. If you are not reloading, the older version of a data is going to present in your web browser. Ultimately, the new changes will not reflect. So we must always load it. The notes generally my team is going to share, and the full details of this particular course, which will also be given by our team. So you can even ask our team. Our team is going to share all the details. Some of my work So there are many projects that we have completed, and even the trainer has, even I mean to say, I have almost 12 years of experience in IT. I have built hundreds of applications.
So I
Okay.
have a question.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, Shiv Kumar.
So is video tag and iFrame tag are both are same? Is different?
Video tag and
iFrame tag. iFrame.
no, both of them are different. Iframe is for loading a different HTML page into another HTML page, or placing a YouTube videos or Google Maps into a web page. People are using iframe. So, and one more important point everybody should understand: there is no tag is similar to another tag. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all the languages are built by experts, those who are having multiple years of experience in IT, and we should not even complain. We don't have any rights to say that there are two tags at similar purpose. No, it is not at all possible, my dear friends, which is always important to understand. Even at certain point of time the tag looks similar, but ultimately each tag is released and defined for a different purpose. We cannot even complain about a language is created by experts. Okay, that's all about today's session. If you guys have any questions, feel free to put it in a group or maybe somewhere else, and I'm going to address all of them. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great day. Bye.
ಇದು ಫೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅದು ಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಬಿಲ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಈಸ್ ಫೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು కింద కింద